of the DFS Working Group Policy Conversation Series. The Policy Conversation Series is a flagship virtual platform designed to foster peer learning, thought leadership, and practical policy exchange among central bank, financial regulators, and supervisors. PCS sessions are closed, member-only engagement, allowing for candid dialogues, evidence-based reflection, and collaborative ideations among policymakers, supervisors, and technical experts. Today, we will focus on a very important topic, which is women's leadership pushing the boundaries of innovative and inclusive governance in financial regulations and supervision. It highlights how visionary women are pioneering in transformations in policy, regulation, and institutional design to build resilient, inclusive, and future-ready financial authorities. Before we begin, a few quick notes. We encourage your active participation and mutual respect throughout the session. You may use the chat and Q&A functions or raise your hand to ask questions or provide intervention during the session. As I said earlier, this session is a safe space for AVI members to exchange ideas and opinions. Please keep your microphones muted unless you are speaking. Interpretations is available in French and Spanish. On Zoom, please click the globe icon at the bottom of your screen, then select your preferred language channel. You can also choose to mute the original audio if you prefer to hear only the interpreter. Now, let's take a group photo to commemorate this session. Kindly turn on your cameras if possible. I would like to invite Ms. Susanna from AFI to guide us through for the photo group. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Ira. Can you please unshare your screen? Thank you. Dear colleagues, please turn on your cameras. We have still some colleagues joining, so let me admit them in.
Yeah, Jane.
Okay, let's allow them 1 more minute to join us.
Huh?
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. 1, 2, 3, and can you give us a big smile? Oh, 1 moment, the screen is jumping because people are turning on and off their videos. 1 moment. 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you very much. Perfect. Thank you very much. Over to Ira. All the best.
Thank you, Susanna. I'll share again the screen. Now I would like to invite our moderator for today's session, Ms. Lim Shengling, our gender focal point co-lead from Bank Negara Malaysia. She will guide us through today's important and interesting conversation. Ms. Lim Shengling, over to you.
Thank you, Ira. So before we start, maybe I'd like to begin with a simple image. Picture a policy meeting room many of us have sat in, a room full of experts debating how to govern digital finance, balance innovation and risk, or strengthen consumer protection. Every so often, someone offers a different perspective that shifts the conversation, and one that challenges all assumptions or asks, who else are we missing from this policy? And very often, that voice comes from a woman. And yet, women remain underrepresented in shaping the future of finance. Only about 15% of central banks globally are led by women, and fewer than 1 in 5 top leadership roles in financial regulatory authorities are held by women. At the same time, as technology becomes core to policymaking, women make up less than 30% of the tech workforce, even though these capabilities are redefining the next generation of central banking. And this is why today's conversation matters. Before we dive in, let me briefly anchor us in the platform that brings us together. As Ira mentioned earlier, this policy conversation series is a flagship peer learning space, and it's meant to foster candid dialogues. So please feel free. If you have any questions, stop us at any time or post it in the meeting chat, and we'll be happy to direct those questions to all our speakers here today to answer this. Yeah, and today's edition continues this mission by focusing on women who are pioneering innovation, institutional reform, and inclusive governance, often while navigating systems not originally designed with women's realities in mind. So it's not just about celebrating representation, it's about the courage to lead change, influence culture, and embed inclusion into innovation, shaping a central bank of the future that's more resilient, human-centered, and reflective of the societies we serve. And we are honored to have a panel of exceptional trailblazers joining us today, each leading transformation in their institutions and country contexts. Ines Paez, Director of Innovation and Financial Inclusion, Superintendents of Banks, Dominican Republic. Lana Lomé Yaremia, Manager of the Central Bank of Samoa. Masuma Sultana, Director of the Payment System Department, Bangladesh Bank. Pearl Malumane, Senior Analyst from the Policy and Regulation, South African Reserve Bank. And our team center of today, Nimisha Taylor, Competition and Regulation Specialist, E-nomics Singapore. Could I get each one of you to briefly introduce yourself and share a fun fact about yourself? Maybe we can start with Ines.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So I'm Ines Paez from the Superintendency of Banks in Dominican Republic, and I work, I am the head of financial inclusion and financial innovation. As well, my team is coordinating the behavioral unit within the superintendency. And it's my pleasure to be here with all these wonderful speakers to give you a motivation for the women to be a leader on this innovation pathway. Thank you.
Thank you, Ines. Lana?
Hello, everyone. And as we say in Samoa, talofa, and Pacific greetings, I guess, as a member of the from the Pacific Islands. So, as introduced, my name is Lana. I look after the financial system development department here at the Central Bank of Samoa. So, financial inclusion, one of the main areas that we look into, payments and also credit information register. So yeah, I do look forward to the exchange and hopefully learn a bit more from the wonderful speakers today. Thank you.
Lana. Masuma?
Good evening, everybody. This is Masuma Sultana from Bangladesh. I am the director of Bangladesh Bank, Central Bank of Bangladesh. Nice to see a flock of glorious faces. Today's topics is very, very important for us. Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Good afternoon, good morning, everyone, wherever you are in the world. My name is Pearl Malumane. I'm from the South African Reserve Bank. I work for the Policy and Regulation Division. I'm involved in various initiatives relating to digital transformation from a policy perspective. And we are also working with the operators, and the South African Reserve Bank recently is focusing on digital transformation to ensure that all South Africans have access to fast, accessible digital payments. So this is the focus on women today. It's also something that is very interesting to me as well, and I hope to learn from colleagues. Thanks.
Yeah, finally, Nimisha.
Hi, everyone. Hola, bonjour, namaskar, talofa. Selamat Belong and Sunny Bonani. I'm joining you all today from Sydney, but I normally live in Singapore. I I'm the founder of E-nomics, which is a consulting firm focusing on digital policies and inclusivity. And I'm also the author of the book, The Female Digital Revolution. And majority of my career has been working for competition regulators. And so I have that regulatory experience. Looking forward to the conversation today. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you, Nimisha. Thank you all. So, well, I guess to set the stage for today's discussion, maybe it's my pleasure to first invite Nimisha Taylor to deliver our team setting presentation on building the financial authorities of the future, exploring how innovation, competition, and gender-responsive leadership can shape more inclusive and forward-looking financial governance. Well, Nimisha, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Xingling. So let me start by saying that the world today looks very different to the world when I first started in my career. I've had the pleasure of working for competition authorities in analyzing lots of different markets and lots of different industries. And through that experience, over 3 decades and over 3 continents, I've been able to see how so many different markets and industries have changed. We can go to the next slide. Ira, thank you. And in that change that I have seen, I've seen the growing use of technology. One of the earlier markets I looked at actually, believe it or not, involved retailers of women's wear that were actually looking to merge. And I was looking to see whether or not the competition landscape would change. If I look at some more recently in Singapore, it's no longer about retailers merging. It's all about e-commerce because most of us are all shopping online. And one of the things that I see is that women are actually innovating in our growing digital economy. Women are innovating in different industries and they're using different technologies to innovate. I see women that are using artificial intelligence to create health tech, whether it's to use to create smart wearables or to create telemedicine services or everyday healthcare services. Might be women that are using the metaverse, helping to design better education systems, training and support that can be done virtually for women that are maybe in remote areas, and thinking innovatively of how they can deliver that service. And I also see women who are using technology like blockchain, who are looking to see how we can use blockchain to make their supply chains more transparent. And these supply chains could help women who are in the agricultural sector, who are farmers, and how this technology and the greater transparency can help them sell their crops and actually get maybe a better price for these crops too. And I see women as either entrepreneurs or in organizations or in government who are basically taking, as Shenglin said at the beginning, the lead in innovating and using these technologies both from a personal and professional perspective. And if we go deeper into actually understanding the role of the women, I would like to invite to look at a framework that I think about when I think of the growing digital economy. So Ira, we can go to the next slide. And here I have a framework. Because one of the things that is so powerful as women are innovating in our digital economy is the different roles that they are playing. We have women who are powerful digital consumers. A lot of women are shopping online. In terms of the convenience is one predictable factor. especially if they have other caregiving responsibilities, having products delivered or the shopping delivered to your door. Plus, women are making, as consumers, nearly 80% of household purchasing decisions. So they are decision makers in the home. And so they also have a lot of economic power that they hold in that sense. I also see women as digital entrepreneurs in terms of starting up these businesses. I gave an example of the health tech. It's not just health tech. It could be edutech or climate solutions or fintech in particular as well. And they're being entrepreneurial. Again, maybe is it to work in terms of how they manage the work-life balances. They have maybe, again, other responsibilities, the flexibility of what starting a business might potentially give them. Or women are very passionate about a cause, a real-life problem that they want to solve. They want to maybe give better education, have better financial services made available. Quite often we see it's the women that are sometimes taking the lead in actually trying to solve those real problems and then seeing how can technology help us on that journey. Then we have women like myself and my experiences being in government, and the lovely women that we're going to hear from later on today, who play a very important role in government in designing the digital policies and regulations that we need so that when we are operating in every aspect of our economy, that we actually are able to do that in a safe and secure manner. And that those policies and regulations move with time. They become flexible and adaptable to changing market conditions. And then also we have companies that play a vital role in every industry. Over the years, we are seeing new types of companies emerge, especially in the financial services space. We have fintech providers, we have microfinance providers, we have new e-commerce players, we have new data centers, new companies that are focusing on AI. And then we have our traditional companies like your schools, your hospitals, and they all are maybe going through some sort of digital transformation process. And we see women again here leading these big projects to make things much more efficient and to deliver much better products and services. And so in recognizing the different roles that women play in the digital economy, we can actually understand how is it that we can support them. And as Shenling said, is that whilst I see and want to start with celebrating the innovative things that women are doing, we're only starting. There is room for so much more. There is so much untapped potential that I see for women in terms of the economic contribution that they make. So just to give an example, we have each of these different agents that contribute economically. And if we go to the next slide, you can see just an example, for example, from India, where it says about 20% of the micro SMEs are actually owned by women. And I'm sure in many of your countries as well, there are many micro SMEs too, certainly in Southeast Asia, where I tend to be based. And that's where an example of a headline of an article that shows what their contribution to GDP could be. But it's not just women in our communities. I also want to recognize something as well, that we also have powerful women who are maybe on the international stage. But they as well act as very role models on the international stage, as well as role models in our communities. And some of you may be familiar with Taylor Swift, you may even be a fan. But this one woman alone is a great example of how she has been, through her music, giving back to the economy through her concerts, and was even quoted by the Reserve Bank of Philadelphia when she first started as an example of the economic value that they can give. So two extremes, but what it showcases that there is so much potential, and then there is a real need to maybe start thinking about how we measure that potential as well, but how we show that potential based on the different roles that women play. So whilst women are innovating, using technology, there is room for more. And as we go to the next slide, we need more women leaders. And we need more women leaders in finance, because all the industries that I mentioned, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, whether it's e-commerce, manufacturing, finance is every part of that industry. Money needs to flow from A to B to every kind of aspect. But money also needs to be able to flow from X to Y. We need the inclusivity so that people can have access to funding for whatever it is that they need to do, whether it's for their work, for their families, for their businesses, or for the causes that they are looking to champion. As highlighted here, and this is a statistic from a recent report, only 16% of the world's 185 central bank leaders are women. Yet central banks play such a vital role in our economy. They're not just there in terms of the macroeconomic effects. The role of the central bank, again, affects consumers. They affect entrepreneurs. They affect the companies. And they also make sure that the economy functions in a safe and secure manner. And so it's very important that we have women leaders in finance, but also championing the different policies and regulations that are needed to make our financial systems safe and secure. So in the next slide, I just show some examples of the different areas of policy and regulation around finance. The first one I have there is cybersecurity, making sure our payment infrastructure is actually safe and secure. And quite often, cybersecurity is not just an IT problem. A lot of errors, cyber attacks, tend to be based on human error. So having inclusivity, having women leaders in those discussions is very important as part of making sure that we are all cyber literate and digitally literate in how we use technology. How we manage our data, that affects everybody, not just the financial data, but every single data that we touch when we start talking in the digital space is very important. Consumer protection. As we have new types of payment services or new types of financial services, making sure and new types of e-commerce players, making sure that vulnerable people, especially women, are not misled in any way. To make sure we actually protect them from that harm, we must also have women representing and helping to shape those policies, knowing where they could be potentially at risk. And also we need competitive environments. We need competitive financial services so that we can make space for that innovation to take place. And so we need more women as leaders, and we need more women as leaders in our digital economy. And so one food for thought is introducing this role of women as powerful digital leaders. And what do I mean by digital leaders? Well, as a definition in the next slide, it's about digital leaders that's been described as potentially being visionary. Visionary in the sense of showcasing using technology, but using that for problem solving and making business decisions. So you can click again. So this is a definition that this particular lady has made. I think, and I'll just read it out. I think a good digital leader is someone who is able to inspire, to have a vision, and to include digitalization in his or her vision and be able to share this with all employees. And so I think when I started at my presentation, I was talking about women as innovators. I already see women as being that naturally visionary in some cases, taking the lead. And this concept of digital leadership, I feel, will be much more powerful as our digital economies grow around the world, and also as we engage in more cross-border trade with different economies. And so my final food for thought is how we think about growing some of our women leaders is that I think women have some natural strengths. Women have some natural strengths, which I call superpowers. And these superpowers are soft skills. These soft skills, I think, are the superpowers for the future. A lot of these projects that I talked about, whether it's a digital transformation in a school, in a hospital, or in a business, or even in some of the central banks, they require people skills. It's not just about the technology. The people skills to bring different people together, whether it's the lawyers, the data scientists, the younger workers, maybe the older workers, our male colleagues. We need to bring people together to help solve a lot of these complex issues that we are trying to do. And women are great collaborators. Government cannot do it alone. We also need to find public and private sector collaborations or collaborations with different industries. We need empathy as well. We need to bring inclusivity into our conversations so that when we are designing our policies and nurturing our leaders, we have these soft skills that we are also role modeling and showcasing. So with that, I'm going to leave it there and hopefully given you some food for thought for this conversation. And I'm very excited to learn and listen to the other amazing women that are on this call and to hear about their leadership journeys and maybe even what their superpowers are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nimisha, for the insightful and inspiring framing. You've laid a strong foundation for our conversation today, and I like how you brought in Taylor Swift into the conversation. Definitely a big contributor to the economy, especially in the US and globally, I'm sure. Not forgetting Blackpink too. Right, so we will now move into our moderated discussions, which is structured across 3 key themes to guide our flow today. Firstly, we will talk about leadership journeys and institutional transformation. So to begin our discussion, I'd like us to start with the personal stories. Leadership journeys are rarely linear. They are shaped by values, courage, mentors, barriers, and defining moments. And very often, they are the catalyst for institutional change. So to ground today's theme and conversation, I'd like to invite some of our speakers to share their leadership journeys and how they have driven innovation or transformation in their institutions. The question is, can you share your leadership journey and highlight how you have contributed to driving innovation or institutional transformation within your organization? And maybe we can start with Ines.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It's a truly pleasure to be part of this inspiring policy conversation series. And thank you to Nimisha for that powerful message to motivate this discussion. It's a very nice topic, actually, in finance and in banking in our sector. The higher you go, the fewer women you will see. And maybe even forming a panel often requires an extra effort to ensure the gender equity. We in the Superintendency of Banks, we have run a few gender reports, and actually we can confirm this. While the staff composition of the banking sector starts closely 50% between men and women, the percentage of women drops at the middle and senior management and falls down to 20 or less percentage if you go to the board of directors. So I have seen this reality firsthand, both in the telecommunications sector and now in banking, because my background previously was in the telco industry. And I realized how essential diversity is for innovation. And by diversity, I mean not just gender balance, but also a mix between profiles and experiences, because this will enrich our discussions and the decision making. Women can bring a unique perspective, and it's vital when we are part of the conversation, because otherwise you can have some biases when you are designing and products and services, or when you are making public policy. And I have to say that last year I joined the Women's World Banking and Oxford University Leadership and Diversity Program, which now it's open again for the registration. So I invite you to join them. And in that cohort, many of us we share the same challenge. There is how to balance the personal life and the professional ambitions that we'll have, and that's I think it's natural for us. And it's thought sometimes it's overwhelming and sometimes it's rewarding, but that's a reality that I think most of us are facing. As mentioned in the panel introduction, it's especially challenging when we have to juggle between professional and family roles. And some of us are mothers, so we know what I mean by that. Some days we can feel we can do it, and others we can feel overwhelmed, and that's part of the journey. So one of my biggest takeaway from this program is that is up to us to help and integrate and support more women so they can grow as well and they can thrive in their careers. And as well as part of the DFS working group as well, uh, definitely we are trying to support this kind of initiative, like this conversation, for example, and fostering mentorship, sharing best practices, and making sure that women's voice shape digital finance policy as well. So thank you very much for the space.
Thank you, Ines. Maybe can I also invite Lana, if you could share your leadership journey and how you have contributed to driving innovation, institutional transformation.
Yeah. But firstly, thank you, Nimisha, for setting the scene. I do relate to a lot of things that you had touched on in your presentation. So to the question about my journey into a leadership role at the central bank, I would describe it as a role or a journey that was shaped by opportunities that arose out of challenges or issues faced by a central bank that recognized that it could do more than its traditional or conventional central banking role, that a central bank looking to evolve and take on a different approach to somehow address the same objectives, to further the objectives. So yeah, I think that's where financial inclusion comes in. It was a totally different lens for central bankers to operate from. And so I think the point I wanted to make here, recognizing a challenge that became an opportunity, you can't really do the other way around sort of thing. That was it for me, because when I started at the central bank, I was in the financial markets department. And so when the leadership at the time wanted to explore more how we could do more in financial inclusion, it thought to assign the activities to the financial markets rather than supervision. So it's our financial inclusion journey, and so my journey into the innovation space, I would say, started from there, an opportunity that arose. And so, making it a long story short, we now have a department that is now tasked with financial inclusion. So I think there I continue my journey, still trying to facilitate as much innovation for financial inclusion. But as I mentioned, payments is another area that's tied to financial system development. So just, really expanding more the space for innovation and institutional transformation within the central bank. So yeah, I think I would briefly describe it as that way. I found myself in these roles as out of opportunities that arose, and just central bank evolving over the course of the past few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Lana, and thanks, Ines, earlier, I think, for both of your powerful reflections. I'd like to build on some of those themes by bringing in another perspective. Pearl, if I may turn to you, how has your leadership journey within the South African Reserve Bank informed your views on advancing women's representation in policy and regulatory leadership?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I was just thinking about my journey. So I was from the payments industry, from the bank, before I moved to the SAP. And I was just thinking years back in the industry, how I would get into meetings and I would be the only female in some instances. And everybody in the room, there would be older males. And also where I would be the only person of color. So you can imagine the challenges that were there. When you were in meetings, you felt intimidated. So it was, and you were not given an opportunity to speak. So through this leadership journey, so now I'm just going to talk about, coming to the SAP, is that from a leadership perspective, I really thank the SAP for providing people like myself with an opportunity to lead in technical digital transformation projects. And as women, it is important that we are given a voice to speak, as there are certain males. I mean, there are different cultures as well, and with different cultures, at home or in other cultures, women do not really have a voice. But when you come to work, you are equals. You have a voice, but in communities and when you're home, you're not really equals. So as a woman, being encouraged that in any settings, I am equal to my male colleagues and some of my older male colleagues who may know more than me, and obtaining the support to overcome sometimes being intimidated and being able to speak freely as well. And maybe this was something that was a conversation that I had with one of the executives regarding people having a voice in meetings on how that could be improved. That, sometimes you get into meetings and you find one person who is senior from a specific, whether it's a department or even a regulatory authority, where they would dominate the conversation, and everybody else would, keep quiet because that person is the most senior person in the room. That the person that is chairing the meeting, it is important for them to also ask other attendees at the meeting to say, what, so and so, what are your views regarding this? So and so, what are your views regarding that? So I think it's important as women we understand these dynamics. And when we are in positions of leadership, we also give women an opportunity to have a voice, because if we don't, who else would consider the voice of a woman in this instance? So that is just a high-level summary of my journey in leadership, from a very male-dominated environment to an environment where one is courageous to speak and to speak our minds, regardless of the level of seniority in the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Pearl. I think a lot of us can probably relate to that. And I like how you brought up the fact that at the start of the meeting, you need to have a voice. And it also relates back to how my introduction of this session, we talked about the voice that comes from women during a meeting, and we must not forget or miss out that. So maybe if I could build on that, Masuma, from your experience at Bangladesh Bank, I know it's probably male-dominated, but what factors have enabled or constrained women's advancement into senior leadership roles?
Okay. Thank you, Sang. And thank you, Namisa, for your nice presentation. This is a nice presentation in the power of women. You show the power of women and the need of women and the power in the financial sector as they buy and take the decision of the families 80% of the financial expenditure. This is a nice things I feel very unique for me. I never thought this in such way. And from the Pearl's experience, I also think about my journey in Bangladesh Bank. This is a male-dominant, I can say, but most of the time it is not that type of male-dominant. I never feel that extreme level of male dominance in the Bangladesh Bank. At my first, firstly, I want to give you an overview of our country women's position. 38% of our women came to the higher education level, and in our central bank, the proportion percentage of women employees 22%. But in higher level, it is only 15%. But as we see, we compare with the global level, I think this is not too bad. This is not too bad. And our junior level and mid level, it is about 17% and 18%. This is the participation situation of Bangladesh Bank. And my journey, if I say, like Pearl, when I first joined in Bangladesh Bank in foreign exchange investment department, there is all male colleague and only two new girls we are engaged in this department. One of the important thing in Bangladesh Bank is that there is no, they give you the work without thinking that you male or female. So we first we engaged in the foreign exchange investment department. Then I go to the foreign exchange foreign exchange supervision department, then offsite supervision department, then debt management department, public debt management department, and then I worked in payment system department. Payment system department, then another department again, public debt management. This type of work situation. Firstly, I think that this is not too good for me. But I work in 3 years, 4 years in foreign exchange investment department, then again in payment system department, again in debt management department. But at the time, now I feel that this make a base for me. The every experience in every department, every level, in every role, I gather some experience and challenge. I always feel challenge from foreign exchange investment to supervision, just different type of works. So I jump a hurdles, and then I see that there is a more hurdles, and this situation make me compete with our male colleague also. And in this journey, sometimes I um, take them as the competitor, but most time I like to work with them with a team. As a team, I get help from very much from them. Without my journey, there is also many important department are led by the women, like research department, monetary policy department, and human resource department, payment system department, you know that. But one thing I see, and till it is exist, that no women are posted in the inspection department. So there is the question: what is the problem? There is some problem, you know that already. Nimisha also told in her presentation the social norms. There are some social norms. There is safety issue in the workplace and also the job place. So in that cases, we see that the women there is the lack of safety in workplace. So our higher authority are not eager to are not want to um, send us in inspection. But in supervision department, in offsite supervision, we are working the offsite supervision or oversight department. And recently the situation has been changed. Some of our we send some of our female colleagues to the inspection department. So this is the journey of me and Bangladesh Bank, and with it, we see that the situation is changed, but there is also another issue: the digitalization. After the digital, nowadays the digitalization changed the every aspect of the leadership. We have to know about how to use this digitalization in decision making and the management and the problem solving. So this is sometimes I think that we the women we are lag behind in these issues. Why? Because we have to play several role as a domestic and a professional role, which squeezed our time. So if in a digitalization global situation, we have to always update ourselves. We have to we have to knowledge gathering, and we have to update about the digitalization, have to learn many things. But if we divide our time with the domestic and professional level, professional career, we see that our time is sometimes some of us cannot achieve this goal as a leadership, cannot develop ourselves as the leadership in the new era. So this is my journey and the problem of most of our colleagues, and including me. And in that case, I think that the digitalization as the leadership, it is a problem for the women. On the other hand, it is a scope for the women, because today I can participate in this session for digitalization, and we have a scope to for higher education or others training. When we do not want to go to abroad, my kids is just 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and I don't want to go to the abroad. But in home, in my desk, if I make some time, I can take the training or program. And thanks Digital Financial Service Working Group for and this type of session for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Masuma. Thanks for sharing your personal journeys and struggles at Bangladesh Bank. And I mean, it's interesting that you shared about some of the stats. That you mentioned about mid-level is about 17 to 18% participation in Bangladesh Bank. I was just trying to recall how many people in my current department, and I realized amongst all the managers, which is the mid-management tier in my department, which is about 20 of us, only 2 are males. The rest are females. Now that you guys mentioned this, I was like, oh, it just occurred to me actually in my company, at least in my department, is quite more female than males, which is great. Maybe if I could turn the attention to Nimisha. Nimisha, from your vantage point across multiple jurisdictions, what structural barriers most affect a woman's ability to lead institutional change, and what needs to shift?
Thank you very much. I'm going to answer this in 2 different ways. So there are a number of barriers, and I think, the economist with me is always, thinking about having clear problem definition, before we talk into the solutions. But if I had to pick one barrier, I think that kind of flows not just from my personal experience, but I think what the other panelists have been sharing, and also Ines was talking about, with this mid-level, when women sort of fall off, and that's not just in the finance sector. You see that in the tech sector as well. But I think that seems to be that sort of that trend where where women, they leave the workforce for caregiving responsibilities, which could be motherhood. But when I say care, because that care could be not just for children, it could be aging parents, elderly parents, other responsibilities. And sometimes when work and life becomes too easy, it's easy to give up one, which tends to be the work, and then take on that role in caregiving responsibilities. And then it's that challenge of that barrier of how you get back into the workforce. I mean, I personally had a very short break because I had to look after parents that were unwell. But how do you get back into that, especially right now with our digital economies moving? There is sometimes the sense of the world is too different now. How do I get back into that workforce? How easy do companies and organizations make it easy for, they sometimes feel that there's no support to help ease you back, or the type of role to help you. But I want to take a pause. So if I was to pick a barrier, it'd be the barrier that women face in getting back into work, because I feel that women still have a lot to contribute, coming back to that. And if I was to take that idea forward, is that maybe just to throw an idea, that something that I choose to been thinking about, is instead of talking about barriers, because I think there's so many, what if we ask the question, women, we are at different stages of life and doing different things. What if we ask, no matter what stage of the life, the question is, what is the opportunity for you? And the reason why I asked that question is in terms of starting about talking women's empowerment. It's a choice. So what choices are available to you? It might be for some women that I do want to give up work and I do want to stay with my children. Or it might be I want to work part-time, or I want to work full-time, or I want to move to a different type of role. The key thing I ask is, how can we give them that choice? And would we get different solutions if we start asking, how can I create more opportunities? For me, that feels so much more positive from a mindset perspective, because when I think of the word barriers, we start thinking very negatively, and we start asking a lot of questions about what is holding women back. But if we asked someone, well, what are some of the opportunities for you? And we showed what those opportunities, could we get a more pathway that would help them come into the workplace and pursue some of these career passions that they have in some shape or form. So a different perspective to share, but I'll leave you with those thoughts there.
Thank you, Nimisha. And thank you all for those honest and inspiring reflections, because I think just earlier, Nimisha, what you mentioned is actually a good segue to bring us to our next segment, where we talk about how institutions should also revolve so that we will be given the opportunities. So let's now turn to how we create systems and cultures where women not only have a seat at the table, but real influence in shaping digital financial governance and innovation. And this brings us to our second segment, which is on gender responsive innovation and organizational culture. So our question here will be, how can central banks go beyond representation and ensure women have real influence in shaping digital financial governance and innovation? Maybe you could start with Pearl. Could you share some of your perspective on that?
Thank you, and I think a great question. And Nimisha, thank you very much for that. I think the issue of balance, it's very important because once there is a balance between work and life, it provides women the type of opportunities that they need. Because I have noticed that in providing women with choices and influence, the biggest influence is balancing the two, because you don't want to neglect your, let's say, motherly role. And then also from a career perspective, you also want to advance, and is trying to have that a balance as well. So thank you very much for that. So from an influence perspective, it is critical that women do influence policies and also the culture as well. So in relation to influence, generally when policies are being developed, they are developed broadly, but even as women, sometimes we forget to consider the woman aspects into it. For example, if issues around digital transformation, we are saying that everybody should have access to, digital finance and benefit from digital finance, but we haven't really zoned in as to how women transact and how women participate in the economy effectively. So there are certain households where they use one bank account. And in using one bank account, the woman works hard as well in contributing to that bank account. And in some instances, it's the woman that brings in most of that income. But in terms of how those funds are managed, it is the female, the male partner that influences how money is spent. So I think firstly, our policies, it's important that we empower women. We empower women from a financial perspective and also in developing our policies. And I liked, Nimisha, your presentation on on cyber, that diagram that you have on cyber as well, that from a scam perspective, I'm not sure from my personal experience, I've picked up that women are vulnerable to scams as well. Something that when there are educational programs for a digital financial inclusion, we forget things like Roman scams. I remember I attended a conference and it was my first time hearing that romance scams are growing not only in South Africa but globally as well. And it is something that it's shameful as well. So women suffer, in silence because, people ask you, but how can you get duped? So I think it's important that there are specific programs as well, because we are always encouraging women to participate in digital payments, digital transformation. We are telling them about, the benefits of digital, payments and being financially included, but we haven't really zoned in on the risks relating and fraud relating to digital payments, especially those that are targeting women. So in developing policies and influencing the policies as women, it is our responsibilities to put on the woman gender hat to ensure that the voice of the woman is there, the woman is protected as well from a digital finance perspective. So those are just my 2 cents regarding the importance of influencing policy development and having the woman in mind. Thanks.
Thank you, Pearl, for that. I think it is very important because when it comes to scams nowadays, it's not just males that's been targeted, but women, especially when we do our e-commerce shopping, when we go online and all, and that's where we get targeted very easily. So, but before we move on, maybe I would like to invite some of our audience, maybe those in the call here, if there's anyone who would like to ask any questions, just feel free to raise your hand or type it in the chat here, right? And okay, maybe for the same question, I could also pose that to Ines. Ines, how can central banks go beyond representation and ensure women have real influence in shaping digital financial governance and innovation? Maybe you could share from innovation inclusion lens perspective.
Yeah, thank you. So I agree with Pearl on his her opinion, and well, in the field of innovation, as I mentioned before, I think diversity is essential, is critical. I believe that that's where their richness lies, because in being able to combine different perspective, furthermore, it allows us to see the needs of each segment and ensuring they are heard, and that we can address all the different needs in a value proposition, and men alone, and not to belittle or underestimate them, but the men alone cannot design products for women. So we both need to be at the table in order to create synergies and to achieve a better outcome. So I think it's important to be both, not just women, neither men alone, but to be both at the table, and then we can have a better outcome, definitely, in both in innovation and in financial inclusion.
Right, thank you so much, Ines. So I'd like to deepen this with a couple of country perspectives, and let's go zoom in into the Pacific context. Lana, what role does cultural context play in shaping women's leadership and inclusion across Pacific FIs, Pacific financial institutions, I mean?
Okay, I'll try my best, but generalizing the Pacific would be a bit would be a stretch. But well, I can I can provide the context for Samoa. Cultural context in Samoa's case is very important, and I believe this is empowering for us. So we face the stereotype of gender roles in our culture, but this does not disqualify females from holding leadership positions or chiefly titles in our cultural setting. So as I said, culture can be empowering, especially in our context, and that can easily translate into the workplace. So and what I mean by that is women holding leadership roles within institutions, it's a norm. There's no, you get there on your own merits, right? Your qualifications, your experience, and all that. And there's the part about, whether you're female or male sort of is at the back of the mind, but it's there. So I think just having that instilled from our cultural context, it does provide an empowering feature, as we go further and apply that into the workplace. So that said, it's always been a struggle for us regarding the gender issue, because some of the studies that we have conducted, it's the women who are better off in conducting, financial affairs for households, and interacting more with financial services that are offered in the country. But it's not to say we shouldn't do anything. We're still looking at this aspect. We would like to understand more regarding the women perspective in our own cultural setting as well. And I think that's one thing I would suggest is because I think the undertone from the discussion is the women perspective. You need to consult them, involve them, from policy design to technology and infrastructure build, right? And so to build something for them, they need to be included. That's the idea. So I think that would be the next step for us is to really dive deeper into the women perspective in our context, to really push that mild design, policy design, technology and infrastructure build. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we also will agree with you that women should be consulted when designing policies. Masuma, could you share how gender responsive practices have been integrated into payment systems or organizational culture at Bangladesh Bank?
Yes. Thank you, Sen. Today, the 60% of our the employee of our payment system department are female women. This is a good thing for us, and the many important projects are developed by the women. And what are there are many government policies for the development of the women. In recent years, the women's education is rising, but there is no different policies for women in the central bank for their development. But for the financial inclusion, there are many projects and there are many work has been done by Bangladesh Bank. But for it is a reality that there is a few projects for the central bankers, for the development of the central bankers. The most of the cases we do ourselves, but some development organizations have the scholarship for higher education and which give importance to the women. this is a benefit for us because in my past experience, I see that there is a negative perception for women's competitiveness exists in our male colleagues, which can be break by the higher education. So this is a practice in our country, in Bangladesh Bank, Central Bank. Other than this, there is no gender. There is always gender equality in some sense. So this is a good thing for central banks. And for the financial inclusion, we have done many things. We have separate programs for the financial inclusion, for e-commerce, for this type of works. So this is the situation of Bangladesh Bank.
Thank you so much for that perspective, Masuma. I think you mentioned earlier about, was it 60% of women in Bangladesh to have higher education? Is that what you mentioned earlier?
No, not 60%, 38% in higher education, 38%.
38% are in higher education. That's really, really high. That's very good for Bangladesh.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, Nimisha, if I may bring you in, how can diverse leadership perspectives strengthen competition and data governance frameworks as digital finance evolves?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I want to perhaps say that from my research, one of the things that I've found is that when you have women who are in leadership roles, as the head of the organization, that's a great starting point for changing the culture of the organization. And so the research shows that women tend to also hire other women as well. So that's a great way, when you have that leadership, you're getting more women and more representation within that org. And then when I reflect on that research, on my own experience of having worked in a competition authorities, what I've seen quite often when you've had the head of the competition authority, that affects the culture. And there is also that mindfulness of looking at competitive markets and also thinking about women as consumers, and actually having a look as to, well, in some markets, are women paying more for goods and services unnecessarily? Do we see discrimination against women? And so I see that, that has then also encouraged, looking at market studies, maybe some examples that come to mind. I think the UK did a study where they were looking at car repairs. I don't have a car, but I know friends that, they don't know anything about cars. So if they were going to take it to the mechanic, they might see this woman doesn't know anything, potentially quote a much higher price, the issue of asymmetric information. But, if they take a male friend with them, would they quote a different price? So looking about those situations where women are maybe vulnerable consumers, whether it's car repairs or maybe in terms of bank loans, or where they could be potentially disadvantaged, or maybe looking at products that women naturally tend to buy, whether it's beauty products, sanitary products. I was involved in a study involving infant formula milk, where mothers tend to be the largest purchasers, or making the decision as to what infant formula milk that they're looking to use. So looking at that, when you've got women in leadership, in government, in my experience, has been, the openness to maybe look at those markets that may be affected more so from a gender perspective. And I think that also will translate into then in other aspects of our economy as well, of having, when we're designing those products and services, making sure that they are designed for women and by women too as well, because there are blind spots. So that would be my comment.
Thank you. And I think it's quite common. I mean, I hear quite a coherent message for this segment, which is any policies, it should be designed by women, for women. We need to have women leadership at the top so that women perspectives will be taken into account. But Nimisha, you raised something quite interesting about, the car repairs, because I have to admit that's me. I don't know anything about cars. I don't know whether they are quoting me wrongly. I just said, sure, I'll pay what I have to pay. I trust that you say it's true. But yeah, I think that's also probably the same for a lot of women out there. All right, thank you so much, everyone, for maybe before we move on to our last segment for today, I just want to remind everyone again, to our audience out here, please feel free to share your questions in the chat, or feel free to just raise your hands if you have any questions. Otherwise, I might even call you out to volunteer you to ask questions, all right? Okay, so we've talked about how leadership institutions, but equally important is how institutions develop more leaders. So our final segment here today brings us to the enablers behind the scenes, the mentorship models, support systems, and leadership pathways that help women rise, influence, and sustain their impact. Behind every leader is a network. We have mentors, allies, sponsors, family, and communities that make the whole journey possible. So let's discuss what this enabling ecosystem should look like. So our final question here, final question for this segment, what support systems or mentorship models are needed to help women leaders thrive and advance into strategic roles while balancing multiple responsibilities? Maybe before I invite one of you to share, maybe I could also quite quickly share. In Bank Negara Malaysia, one of the support systems that we have actually is a daycare center for mothers. So our daycare center is actually really, really close by. It's probably a few minutes drive down the road. So I think what a lot of mothers in Bank Negara are really, really thankful is to have their babies nearby them. So they can go back to work after maternity leave and yet still be near to the kids to be able to nurse them, breastfeed them. And this daycare center, it starts all the way from 3 months until 6 years old. So I think a lot of parents choose to send their kids there. And the best thing is, one of the biggest support that was given by our company is the whole cost is being subsidized. You are able to send your babies there and only pay about 1,000 ringgit a month. So that's probably like $200, which is really, really good price. So, I don't have a kid, so I can't benefit yet from this. Hopefully one day. But yeah, maybe I'll invite our speakers here to share their experience and what kind of support systems they feel that's needed. If I could start with Lana, would you like to share your perspective?
It's interesting you mentioned the that support system that's available to Bank Negara staff. We definitely don't have that. But it brings to mind there's been a government recently in the recent past to look into such methods to support women staff. So we had the Ministry of Finance, who is one of our tenants here at the building. So I say this and just wanting to share because I was able to witness this change. So because in the office there's limited space, right? So you always have limited space in the office. But I saw the priority that was placed to have such a facility readily accessible for female staff, or especially who were new moms as well. So I in my mind, I really applauded taking that stand, to give up workspace, staff workspace to allow that to happen. So, well, like I said, there's no such support available at the bank. Nothing else as well. But I guess in terms of mentoring, it's always there. We don't have anything that's formalized, a formalized structure of mentorship within the bank. But it does happen informally, I would say. I think that's all I can say at this point regarding this part of the segment. Wish we could be doing more perhaps in the near future, but that's the current situation right now. Thank you.
Thank you. And I guess this is also why we have this conversation today, so that we can learn what can we do more from other countries, right? Yeah, turning our attention to Masuma, would you like to share what support system and mentorship models are needed?
Yes, like Bank Negara Malaysia, we have daycare center, and this is subsidized by most of the part is subsidized by Bangladesh Bank. This is a great thing for us because in this when we come from the maternity leave of 6 months maternity leave, we put our child in this daycare center, and mothers can nurse them, and the stress of being a mother, which is released by this daycare center. Without this, we have a plan also for the paternity leave in a limited for a limited time. This is a ongoing under processing proposal from us. And there is another thing in Bangladesh Bank. There is a medical center with a lot of women doctors. So in for every type of problem, physical problem, we can go to that and take care of our child at any time. And we have also a proposal for the psychiatrist for the mental health of our all colleagues, not only women, for all colleagues. And this is also a undergoing process. This is also undergoing process. And for the mentorship issue, this is an informal process. This is not a formal. There is no formal process for the mentorship. In some cases, not only some cases, most of the cases, the senior of like us, we are making some informal networking. We always talk with our women junior colleagues, and to stimulate them, and to in their everyday of life, in their family life. We advise them for their family life, not only family life, not only work, also their family life, how they respond in a different type of problems, how they face this challenges, different type of challenges. And one of the things that I recognition and realization, this is a process, a recognition of their good doings and the realization of their position. This is a most valuable, this is a most important issue for the women as the future leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Masuma. I'm quite interested to know when you mentioned that you have 6 months maternity leave. That's very great, because that's not the same from Malaysia. We only have 3 months, unfortunately, but it's so amazing to hear that's 6 months for mothers in Bangladesh, in your institution. All right. I'm mindful of time though. Maybe we can move on to the South African context. Pearl, I'd like to hear from you. What cultural shifts do you believe are essential to sustain women's leadership in regulatory roles?
Thanks. So maybe just to provide a South African context that in supporting women in the workplace, not only just leadership. I'll touch on the leadership when I end. Is we have an after-school care where kids can be dropped off after school. Then before 5 o'clock, the parents must fetch them when they go home. So that also alleviates pressure from parents, worrying about fetching kids after school. And then we have a nurse and doctor, on site. And sometimes, you're not, feeling well, you need some painkillers. Um, you can always go to the nurses. And also from a counseling perspective, there's and we, the sub has outsourced an external company where everyone in the bank, including women, can call them. It's more like a counseling line. So even if there are private matters that you would like to speak to someone, other than your family and friends, someone that knows you, that can judge you, you can receive some free advice. And that is also available to our families as well, not only us. And then the sub does have various sessions on women leadership, women um, uh, various initiatives, and on Women's Day, we celebrate Women's Day. But what I found more effective, especially from a leadership perspective, is this whole concept of coaching. So I recently had a session with one of the senior managers in the Reserve Bank on coaching. So there was a specific matter that I was battling with, and with coaching, I think it's important that there is a sisterhood where there is a specific mentor, someone that you can talk to that is outside of your department, that you can speak freely about, and they'll be able to provide you with advice objectively. But I think what is important from a coaching perspective is that they are also able to provide you with tools on how to resolve specific issues. So I think it's important that as women and advancing in leadership, that we are there for each other from a mentoring and a coaching perspective. Thanks.
Thank you. I do agree with you on that. Maybe I could turn to Ines. If I could bring you in, how can central banks create enabling ecosystem that help women move from technical roles into positions of strategic influence?
Yeah, well, I work in the superintendency of banks. It's the banking supervisor. And in our case, well, we have different initiatives. I can mention some of them. We have well, as mentioned, as the other have mentioned, we have some space for the women as in their in their role as a mothers. In fact, actually, I was offering support to pregnant women with talks on breastfeeding and motherhood. And in the superintendency, we have a lactation room where mothers can, well, it's maybe something personal, but they can express milk during the period of lactation, and knowing that they can have institutions support on that role. And as well, in the superintendency, they provide one day for routine medical checkups. So it's part of the, let's say, it's a concern about our health as a woman. And we have an initiative that I want to share today, and we have a scholarship program for women in STEAM careers. Just to maybe to clarify that STEAM careers are science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. and we support them financially, and as well we offer them mentorship from directors like myself, guiding and motivating them as they start their careers. I think it's in this early stage, the support is critical, and I myself, I will have loved to have a mentorship when I began my career. So I encourage everyone here um, to give a young woman this help hand by hand, and to show them the way in their the beginning of their career. I think it's very important, and it's something that definitely we appreciate a lot, and it can be a difference in everybody's starting point, and I think it's pretty important. So that's on our case at the Superintendency of Banks. Thank you.
Thank you, Ines. And Nimisha, you often work with women leaders stepping to top roles, right? So how can leadership development evolve to support the last mile, navigating power dynamics and leading with influence at the top?
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to comment, it was really nice hearing about the types of care facilities that the organizations are providing. And one thing that it reminded me of is that just a trend that I'm seeing in some countries, a lot of talk, for example, in the UK and also in New Zealand as well. Slowly it's sort of getting there in Singapore, but in terms of looking at what sort of support women need during menopause, because part of, so looking at different stages of women's life, you know, getting women to return back to the workforce. Quite often, if they fall back and come back, they're at that sort of stage where they're looking for that work environment. So a lot of companies are also, and organizations are looking about how they can support women through at that stage of life. The other support that I am a real fan of is mentoring. It's something that I have personally benefited from. I both as a mentor and as a mentee. And I feel that there are different ways, you know, you can have the, as some of my panelists have also mentioned, the informal. There's a valuable role that informality can provide as well. But I think in terms of formal structures, they can also be very helpful, because sometimes some things may not organically happen. And I think here probably where I'd probably reckon it is a wish list. I often find that, you know, women are very good at supporting each other. I see a lot of women's community groups or women mentoring, you know, and women putting their hand up to support other women, you know, and the first to sort of do that. And that's very important. So having those mentorships. But my wish list would be to get more male mentors. I feel as if men, for a range of different reasons, the men don't always put their hand up. Obviously, if it's some sort of work that's not going to get them visibility in any shape or form, or isn't going to progress them, that bet, you know, tend not to be so keen, or may not be aware of how to want to help but don't know how to help. So I think there are a range of reasons, and the benefit could be of maybe sharing that knowledge so that we have better relationships of working with our male counterparts, reminding them of the importance of what sort of support they need, women need, and helping that. So, and that's where I think maybe the formal mentoring programs that could potentially have men involved, but also giving them some training as well on how to be a good mentor. What does a good mentoring program look like, so that you manage expectations from both sides and there's a commitment? And you know, that could lead to a lot more knowledge sharing as well. But I'm also a believer that you don't have to have one mentor. I'm a believer that different mentors could help you maybe as a workplace situation. But I think, again, as someone's mentioned, is that maybe there's actually a problem that's not work related. The problem is at home, and there's maybe a different mentor that can help you better manage that in some shape or form. So those are probably the two suggestions that I have.
Thanks, Nimisha. I mean, it would be nice to have men in the mentorship programs, so I'm not so sure whether they'll be comfortable to be involved. And I'm also not so sure, do you think women will be comfortable to be mentored by men?
I think that is a very good question. So, which is where I say that you kind of need both, because you learn different things from both. Is what I'm saying. So, it depends on the nature of the conflict. But I agree that may not be so comfortable.
All right, yeah, right. You're right. You're right. Because we could learn something different from men as well, and men could learn from women as well, for sure. All right. Well, actually, we are actually quite ahead of. I mean, sorry, we already passed our time limit here. So I just want to thank you all to our speakers for your rich insights and heartfelt sharing. If I could maybe just share with some 3 reflections and takeaways from our conversation here today. First, women as catalysts for digital innovation. Women are driving transformation in the digital economy, and we use things like, we can leverage technologies like AI, blockchain, metaverse, as what Nimisha mentioned earlier, to solve real world problems. So this underscores the untapped potential of women as powerful economic agents. Second, we talk about how leadership diversity will fuel better policy and innovation. While gender balance exists at entry levels, representation drops sharply at senior leadership, as what Ines mentioned earlier. When you go all the way to the board of directors, it's probably less than 20%. So diversity, both gender and experience, is critical for inclusive policymaking and product design. And lastly, we talk about structural support and mentorship as key enablers. How we can balance caregiving and career. This remains a big barrier and structural barrier for women, but institutions should provide flexible policies, childcare facilities, formal mentorship programs that could help create pathways for women to thrive. Right. So I know, well, before we conclude, I'd like to invite each of you to share, maybe just in 1 minute. Given that this is a DFS-WG policy conversation series, how can the DFS committee better support members in strengthening gender inclusion across digital financial services policymaking and regulation? If anyone would like to share their thoughts on this.
Yeah, maybe I start. So definitely, I think that there's a call to action for us. We need a financial system where diversity and women's leadership are not the exception, but the norm. That we at the end, I hope that that will be something usually in our day to day. So we need to integrate the gender sensitive leadership into financial governance, as we mentioned. And we not only to open doors for more women, but also to strengthen innovation, resilience, and public trust in our institutions. So I invite everyone that is present today, authorities, colleagues, and allies, to promote policies and organizational cultures that recognize that we need to empower women's talent at all the different levels. So the future of financial governance depends on more and more women having voice, having a vote, and decision-making power. Thank you.
Thank you, Ines. Anyone else would like to share? Maybe I could invite Nimisha to share in 1 minute.
I think if I just reflect very quickly on the conversation, there's a lot of good ideas, initiatives that were being showcased. And I think showcasing much more of those is a very valuable way not just in our own teams, but as publicly as possible, because quite often people keep looking for what are the ideas, what are the case studies, what are good examples, what are good practices, and we're learning some here and showcasing much more of those.
Thank you, Nimisha. Oh, I just realized that we do have a question posted in the chat though. I would like to know, this is by a question by Elda. I would like to know whether the mentorship program is carried out exclusively by Central Bank or in partnership with other entities. And what is the level of involvement of the Central Bank? Sorry, oh, okay.
That's in response to a comment from Delia from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe.
Oh, all right. It's for Delilah. Okay, sorry about that. But maybe because actually there was also a mentorship program that Ines you mentioned, right? Maybe do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, the one I mentioned, it's well, actually the AFI members, we have a kind of discount, I think. It's an alliance between the Women's World Banking and the Oxford University. So basically the idea is that you have one senior manager, one senior leader. There is a companion potential leader, a woman leader. So they both have to take the program, and there is like a kind of mentoring during the program. It's I don't remember now. It's like a 2 or 3 months long, and it's very interesting because you develop leadership abilities, but as well this regulator woman lens perspective. So it's enriching in both dimensions, the leadership and as well the public policy with the gender lens.
Thank you. I hope it answers your question as well, Elda, on this. All right. I think we are we do not have much time left, but thank you so much for everyone. Thank you once again for all of your wisdom and inspiration. To Pearl, Nimisha, Masuma, Ines, Lana, it's been so great to speak to you today. On behalf of the DFSWG, I'd like to thank our speakers and all our members joining us today, and let us continue to live as we climb and work together to build institutions where women not only rise, but lead with impact, courage, and purpose. We look forward to seeing you in the next Policy Conversation series. I think this is the last one for this year, right, Ira? So the next one we'll have it next year.
This would be the last one. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Until then, take care, everyone, and continue to trailblaze, everybody. Have a good night, good morning, good afternoon, all.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye.
Before
Thank
Before
you.
you all go,
wait,
please
I
a reminder.
apologize.
Goodbye.
All right, to do feedback.
The
I'm
survey.
sorry, colleagues, to keep
Thank
you
you. Thank you
hanging
so
here,
much. Bye.
but kindly provide us your feedback. Just scan the QR code or like type out the link that we provided with the slides. It's very important for us to hear your feedback on today's session. So then we can definitely use the feedback for improvement in next year. So please do provide us 2 or 3 minutes of your time to provide the feedback on the evaluation link. Thank you so much, colleague. While waiting for the evaluation, I would like to also invite Adeyemi to close the session and to also maybe provide any announcement, if any. Adeyemi, please.
Thanks, Ira. And again, a big thank you to Shannon and all the excellent speakers tonight. Thank you all so much for sharing your thoughts. I don't have much to say, but just to say a big thank you to everyone from the working group and again, by extension, other colleagues and members that joined us today. We really do appreciate the time and again, your contributions. Like Ira mentioned, this is our last policy conversation series for the year, but be on the lookout. We'll be sending over summary of what we've happened across the year. We've had a very exciting year, and as we walk towards the end of the year, we'll provide you some updates on everything we've done, particularly around our work plan and also what will be happening next year. But other than that, I would like to wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Good evening and probably early morning greetings to Lana. And again, a big thank you to everyone. Thank you so much, Nemisha, for joining as well. I know it's quite late in Sydney, but again, we do appreciate everyone for joining. Thank you so much. Any questions, any feedback, any thoughts you have, you can reach out to myself or Ira. We are more than happy to hear from you. But otherwise, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day. Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.